Welcome everybody, Kate here, and I'm doing a tier list of all the games I completed on stream and, played on stream in 2021. A few exceptions. So let's see. I didn't do this for 2023 because I had COVID at the start of the year last year, and so I was sick for like a month. And at that point, I was like, screw it, it's February already. Not gonna do that. 2023, I think I had like 43 games that I completed. 41. Okay. And then for 2024, we have 23, which is a significant step down, except for a few differences. I speedran Frogger a bit this year because that got maybe for SGDQ, and then I played a bit of Evil Zone and ended up getting second place at that at SGDQ. Let's see what else. December, I cracked into a project for working on beating all the PS1 Disney games, and so right now I'm at like 19. 18 are at 100% complete. 19 I've beaten, and I've got like a couple levels to 100% on Simba's Mighty Adventure on that. So we're at 19 out of I think 37 PS1 Disney games on that. So I'm not tier listing those. I'm just gonna save that for whenever I've completed all of those. And then I was also, since at AGDQ 2025, which will be a week from when I'm recording this, we got accepted at the PlayStation 1 Mystery Versus Tournament, which is a fun thing that we've done annually at every live in-person AGDQ since like 2018, where instead of like facing off in like a specific game, it's a ton of PS1 games, all multiplayer, and you have to face off in that multiplayer game, whatever comes out of the hat. It's chaotic, it's extremely luck dependent, but I think it'll be a lot of fun, and we got the finals of that, final top 3 into AGDQ, so hopefully that'll go well. So I was playing a bunch of like PS1 games outside of stuff that has shown up in the 23 games here. Also, there were some longer games this year. Gemcraft, Chasing Shadows, Odin Sphere, Leifthrasir, Tametsi actually took a while, Dark Cloud 2. Some of these were pretty long, some of these were short. So I'm going to go in order that I played them for the year. And yeah, I think that's all I need to do on intro. So let's get into it. First up, Ori the Blind Forest. That and then Talos Principle. I was just playing Talos Principle on Sundays, and then Ori and the Blind Forest is doing on weekdays, like Tuesday, Thursdays. And so Ori and the Blind Forest I've got as listed first. And where's that at? Right here. I'm putting that in 8 here. There's a really fun Metroidvania, platforming, good combat. It's kind of permitted. I was playing on the PC like remastered version, and apparently like the original release of this game had a lot of kind of clunk to it, which in terms of like you can't go back and do 100%. I did 100% clear it, and like you couldn't like backtrack and stuff. You had to like first try each of the zones. I liked the game. What was the worst one? There was this one like in the dark one. I feel like I'm blending Ori and Ori 2. I feel like the darkness one is in Ori 1. That level was like mega scuff. And there was a little bit of clunk still left in like the remastered, where I don't think they screwed up anything in terms of going back to remaster it. But like there's definitely opportunity for them to make sequel that would improve upon the formula. Which I did play Ori 2 later in the year, but we'll get there when I get there. And then the other game that I just mentioned was Talos Principle. So Talos Principle, puzzle game. I played it on PC. I don't know if it's on other things. But yeah, Ori and the Blind Forest, fun. Talos Principle. One thing to note though, like I was sick. Like I took a week off because I had COVID, but it really took me like a full month to like not first time having COVID, but I got like all the symptoms like the full course. It was not pleasant. So I wasn't like super happy to begin with while playing these games. And Ori was fun. It lightened the spirits. Talos Principle. Maybe this is just like being sick bias. I'm throwing it in B. But there was a lot of like the thing about Talos Principle is you start playing the game and then you get to the point you were like, okay, so what is the puzzle? And then all the Talos Principle nerds in chat are like, checkmate, that is the puzzle. And you're like, but that I don't want finding the puzzle to be the puzzle. I want the puzzle to be the puzzle. I don't want it to be hide and seek with puzzles. So like the overall mechanics were like super sophisticated. It was a pleasant puzzle game. The going outside of the box, I don't think I 100%ed it because there was some, or did I? I might have looked up some of those because those like star solutions were like, where is the star? And so I had to look up where the star was, and it kind of was obvious once you get like bits of information. But the biggest challenge with Talos Principle is that the camera hides the puzzles from you. And if you could just see the puzzle, like it would be so much easier to solve, but instead you're kind of fumbling around in the dark trying to figure out like the maze or whatever. So then you can like in like first person try and figure out the angles when like I don't know, like the actual like computation in most of it isn't particularly sophisticated. It's just you got blinders on that make it hard. And so that's one bit in B where it's not a bad puzzle game. It's getting witness tiered where like there's just stuff about it where it doesn't jive perfectly with me. It's a fine puzzle game, but it's just honestly the camera probably was half the issue. Alright, next, Guacamelee 2. So I played Guacamelee last year, replayed it. Let's see. I'm throwing this in S tier. Fantastic game. It's a Metroidvania. They took Guacamelee 1 and just kind of built on it, added more kind of like side quests and missions and stuff. So you can explore around more and really enjoy the characters without like... I don't feel like 2 added too many new gimmicks. It just kind of improved upon 1. Fantastic music, great art, enjoyable game. 10 out of 10. S tier Guacamelee 2. I don't have anything to complain about, so it's just like great game, good job. S tier. All right. So next, we've got Steven Sausage Roll. Voice cracking a bit. I've got like a little bit of a cold going on. It's not like that. Steven Sausage Roll. So this is a puzzle game, and you are a forklift operator that is moving sausages around to cook the sausages. So let's see. I'm gonna throw this in B tier. Same with Talos Principle. Steven Sausage Roll. So this isn't the only forklift puzzle game that I have played. On the PS1, there is 2 games called Sumu and Sumu Light. And they're kind of forklift puzzle games. Operate a little bit differently. Where in this game, you can roll the sausage and then you can like stack them. They have kind of weird mechanics. While in that game, it's just kind of like pick up blocks, put down blocks. You have to navigate through. It's more Sokoban-like, while this has kind of deviates from Sokoban a little bit more. I think my biggest complaint with Steven Sausage Roll was that it took like a really long time. Oh, it didn't tell you how to play the game, right? There was fundamental mechanics that it just didn't tell you. Like it set up puzzles that forced you to find the mechanic, which is like okay, but like you kind of need to tell me how the mechanics work. And then I was kind of expecting it to be a lot shorter, just because of like it's kind of got the Dust Force structure where like getting to the level is half the battle. And then you get to the level and you got another battle, but then like you got to find the mechanics and then you got to use them. But then like the puzzles kept going, and I was like, there's really no reason that they couldn't have properly storylized the beginning of the game, where they clearly made the levels intending for you to have to figure out the mechanics, but then they didn't explain the mechanics, so you're just sitting there like question mark. I don't know. So yeah, like it doesn't really tell you how to play it, and so it kind of has that same enigmatic, just like figure it out. that's not like you're not stuck on the puzzle. You're stuck on the game. The game isn't fun to be stuck on. The puzzles are. So it's getting B tiered. Puzzles were like the late game puzzles were really good, but the early game just kind of not enjoyable to get there. After that, Ratchet and Clank Deadlocked. On my list, I've got this twice because I did a new game and then new game plus playthrough. Where's that at? Over here. We're S tiering it. Ratchet and Clank, fantastic series. I didn't remember liking Deadlocked as much as 2 and 3. And I don't know. Like maybe I still don't rank Deadlocked as good as 2. I feel like now that I've played through them all at least one more time, Ratchet and Clank 2 is starting to stand out as like the one I like the most. I think I used to like 3 more. Like I kind of like 2 more, and then Deadlocked is great, but it is less. Like it's more arena, like because it's arena, but it's less kind of like the planet exploration. It changed the structure. I think it was a good game to add to the franchise. I just am saying if I was suggesting games, it's like Ratchet and Clank 2, 3, and then Deadlocked in that order. But it's still a great game. If you want to play more Ratchet and Clank like I wanted to do, Ratchet Deadlocked is absolutely great game. After that, we've got Cavern of Dreams. Up in that A tier. Cavern of Dreams is a kind of modern 3D platformer. It has, well, it's not modern. It's done in kind of like the retro, like modern retro style, which is like N64. I would compare it to kind of lower poly. The difference between N64 and PS1 low poly is kind of the colors, and it has more of that bright N64 vibe than PS1. And it also kind of feels more like Banjo-Kazooie and whatnot compared to like Spyro and Crash. But it's a cute 3D platformer made by a smaller indie team, I think. And I thought it was really good. I think I 100%ed it. I don't know that I have any real complaints about it. Why not S tier? Maybe just it's more on the simpler side in terms of like the overall game. But it's like a cute game. Like the difference between S and A tier is like S is like fantastic, would recommend, and A is like it's a great game, but like it maybe is a little bit like you've got to be into that platformer collectathon genre desire, as opposed to like Ratchet and Clank that I think has a little bit more universal appeal. Guacamelee I think would also have like a lot broader appeal. While it's a little bit more niche. Ori is like it kind of hits just because like the extra clunk. I think it kind of has that more limited audience restriction, but like it's still a great game. And then B, it's like, well, you gotta want to play a puzzle game to be playing these, right? Like Steven Sausage Roll isn't for people that don't like puzzle games, right? Like Guacamelee to Ratchet and Clank, these are a little bit more transcendent in terms of like the appeal. Like you've got to be looking for puzzle games on these. Yeah, and then again, I never explained my tiers. F, the only things that go into F is anything that's worse than Bubsy 3D. Simple enough, hard to get stuff in there. It's happened though, trust me. All right, after Cavern of Dreams, I've got the PS2 game Vietiful Joe. So Vietiful Joe was a run back. I played this. I started a playthrough on Vietiful Joe last year, and I abandoned it in like the 4th stage. I feel like and I was on like the medium difficulty. But what tilts me about this game is they don't call it like easy, medium, hard, or something. It goes kids mode or like baby mode, kids mode, and then normal difficulty. Where like I got stuck on just a random enemy in like the 4th level that I couldn't beat on medium difficulty. And I looked up like the game fact, and the game fact just said defeat this enemy and move on. And it was like infinitely spawning swarms of enemies, and I just couldn't figure out how to defeat it. It was so dumb. So I went and I decided to run it back, do it on the lowest difficulty, and I was able to get through that. There was some kind of mechanic with that enemy where you had to like cancel its attacks and send it back or something. That was the only way to hit it because the infinite swarm of spawning enemies was constantly causing it to be defended, and so you couldn't really get proper hits in. So you had to do this one specific mechanic to kill this random tank in the middle of the level that wasn't even a mid boss. It was so tilting. But I think there's so many just bad things about this game. Like there's audio issues, significant audio issues. Now, people that speedrun this game were telling me that it might just be a PS2 version specific issue. I believe this is also on GameCube. And so they were saying on the GameCube version, there's not really the audio issues. Where like I brought up clips, I was like, this is the game I'm experienced. Where I think it's the third level where there's like it's a underwater base, and there's this loud alarm that is louder than everything else that says over and over, and like the missile has been armed. No, that's the fourth level. So the third level, there's just this continuous flow of missiles that go across the screen, and it's just so loud and annoying. Maybe I might be mixing up the third or fourth level. It doesn't matter. Either way, it might have been the fifth level I gave up on, the medium difficulty. Either way, I'm kind of confusing the levels. But so the missile one is just way too freaking loud. And then there's another level that's like the underwater that I was describing, and it's just, the missile has been armed over and over and over. Like there's like no down. He immediately just loops the phrase, full volume, obnoxious, absolutely horrible, so frustrating. Like I kind of want to put it in D tier just because of how bad the audio issues are. Inexcusable. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I don't know. I feel like when we get to the end of the list, I'm gonna make the decision on that because it's not the right. Like if the GameCube version doesn't have those issues, the game could be like a B tier game. Like, but also like one of the enemies like had 7 bars of health on medium difficulty, and then I went back and played it on easy difficulty, and it still had 7 bars of health, and I was like, what the? Like, I'm not doing more damage. It just doesn't hurt me as bad. And not only did it have 7 bars of health, but it also had, like, health regen as an ability. Like, you do 6 bars of health, and then, like, it regen 4 bars. It's like, it took me several cycles to get a bar of health. Oh, man. Oh, Vietiful Joe. Like, everything about this game just, like, so tilting. Like the actual art is like unique, and the gameplay shouldn't be bad, but man, like they just there's so many things that were just super tilting about the game. It's very much a game that you're supposed to play over and over and over again to be able to beat it, and I wasn't like into that. And maybe it's just me and Vietiful Joe clashing, but like the audio issues were absolutely not just me. Maybe you can grab a clip just to show YouTube just I'm not crazy. It's a problem. But yeah, I'll consider this for D tier at the end. We'll look at what D tier looks like. All right, after that, Superliminal. So this is a I'm not putting an extra by the way. I'm just moving up. So this is a kind of smaller indie puzzle game on Steam. I think I'm gonna put this in B tier. Yeah, we'll put it in B tier. So how it works is you can pick up objects and you place them down, and depending on like there's like window frames and stuff you can put them through, and depending on your perspective, you can change the size of stuff and you can move stuff around, and so you get that like perspective scaling thing to cause you to be able to like build ramps and knock down walls and stuff. First person puzzle game equals B tier? I don't think that's right. So let me finish my defense on why Superliminal B tier. I just don't think it is very much got a lot of walking simulator aspect to it. The puzzles, I've got no complaint about the game. Like I think they executed the concept well. I don't know. Like you can make the argument for A tier. I've got no complaints about it. It's just a very calm. Like, there's a lot of walking sim, and it's a kind of a smaller, simpler game. So like if you just compared Superliminal to like Cavern of Dreams, there's a lot more game here. It's like, well, it's just there's, you know, I think it's definitely better than Steven Sausage Roll, just because like it's a 3-hour experience as opposed to like, I don't know, 15-20 hours on Steven Sausage Roll. I liked these 4 hours more than a lot of Steven Sausage Roll, but the end of Steven Sausage Roll was good. They're really sophisticated, challenging puzzles, but you had to like struggle through the tutorial to get there. Talos Principle, like there's some cool puzzles in Talos Principle. It's just there's a lot of just find the puzzle, and so I don't know, like it's just kind of a simpler game. It's not like fantastic. It's like, oh, this is a key. Like this is the you have to want to play a puzzle game to be playing these games. Well, like Cavern of Dreams, like, you might not be looking. I need a 3D platformer, right? Or I'm looking into like modern kind of retro vibes, right? Like it's a cute 3D platformer, collectathon. If you just want a kind of simpler, more child-friendly, cute game, absolutely. Ori, kind of it's a challenging Metroidvania, but it's really good. Pretty good, you know, good controls. I like the combat well. What can I say? I don't know. Like the simplicity is the only thing that brings Superliminal down. Like, I feel like maybe like one more hour of content and it being like a little bit more challenging, right? Like that's the difference between it being DNA. It's just kind of it's a smaller game. All right, after that, Prince of Persia: Warrior Within. So this is Prince of Persia number 2. Not putting in that too, by the way. So I think Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, compared to Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, I did like this one better. The combat in Warrior Within, just as jank as the first game. I'm trying to think. I feel like this was the game that you could actually like increase your swords, and then someone was like, "Get the sword over there. It's super OP." I don't know, there was a little bit more mechanics here in terms of collectible like weapon progression and stuff like that. Map exploration. I don't think I like completed the game 100%. I just beat the ending. I didn't get the true ending. But like it was a pleasant but jank kind of action platformer. The puzzles, I've described Prince of Persia as being more puzzle oriented compared to like God of War, which is more combat oriented. God of War combat is still jank, but I think it's less jank than Warrior Within or Prince of Persia. For the Prince of Persia games, the combat is just not it cheap. But yeah, I don't know, like the combat weighs it down. That's why I think I put it in B tier. But there were some like alright fights, I think, in this one. I think this was the one that had like the giant trolls. What else? You had the girl at the beginning of the game. I don't feel like I just like that fight. Like I don't remember this game making me as frustrated. We're gonna get to Two Princes later, or Two Thrones later. I got words on that one, but we're putting this in B tier. Like it's jank, but it's not bad. I think it's a fine game. After that, Metal Gear Solid 2. So Metal Gear Solid 2, I kind of want a B tier. I also kind of want an A tier. The story, absolutely, like the end of Metal Gear Solid 2's story, like completely picked up my evaluation of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and was like, okay, I get it now. Because Metal Gear Solid 1 is like super clunky. There's some kind of like really obscure like save mechanics and controller mechanics that are really enigmatic to the, you know, to what you have to do. It's enigmatic is a very good term for kind of the Metal Gear Solid experience. It's like most of the gameplay I was kind of B-tiering on. Especially like there are certain parts where there's one part in this game in particular after the bomb boss, I think. You had to go pick up a gun in one of the other towers and then make your way to down like an elevator or something. You had to do all the stealth stuff. And I didn't really understand that where it was telling me to go to get the gun. And I missed the part where it was like, well, the guns are like, you know, bio whatever, like registered. So only the person, you know, only the person that's supposed to shoot the gun can shoot the gun. I was like, why can't I just steal their guns? I don't know. It seemed like a really tedious mechanic to force you to backtrack to another tower to grab the gun. It was really annoying. Overall, like, it's stealth. It's kind of jank. It's very enigmatic at times, but I'm putting it in A tier. I think like the story carries it. The overall game play itself, I would put in B tier. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 definitely redeemed itself at the end. Was a unique experience. Not really something I'm looking to do a bunch of. I'm definitely down for Metal Gear Solid 3 at some point though. Alright, after that we've got Odin Sphere Leifthrasir. However you want to say this. Leifthrasir? I don't have a clue. But I played it on PS4. And basically it's kind of an action... a 2D... maybe beat 'em up, maybe? I don't know, like... action combat game. A little bit Metroidvania-y. You got like... skill trees and progression, and you're fighting your way through. The reason I'm putting it in B tier is honestly because it's just way too long. Like, you have to be really motivated to get to the end of the game, and I think I was mostly 100%ing the levels as I went. It's broken up into 5 characters, and each of the characters has like a story progression. And there's like, you know, interlocking, you know, webs of story and everything. And there's a lot to the game. And each of the characters are kind of unique. They did a good job at, you know, creating variety there. Forcing you to kind of use different strategies with each character. Like, the gameplay is solid. But just because of how long and how many levels for every character there are, it gets a little bit repetitive, and then the end of the game, there's like, there's multiple endings. I don't really remember how many endings there are. I basically just got an ending, and then I YouTubed the rest of the endings, because like, I could have put at least another 4 hours into grinding out all the different paths and everything for like the final sequence to get the endings that, you know, all the endings. So B tier, just because it's kind of like overwhelming a lot. The gameplay is pleasant. It's just gets a bit repetitive, and I think it's a fun game. It just, yeah, there's a lot of it. It's got the opposite problem of Superliminal, where Superliminal there's like not enough going on there, so it got put in B tier. While Odin Sphere like kind of overstayed its welcome. It's like, okay, you need to, I don't know, draw that back. All right, iNinja. iNinja is next. PS2 platformer, just platformer. There's like, it's kind of structured, I guess, like Crash 3, where you've got like a level and you've got like different objectives in the level. You've got like the time, you've got like the base clear, the time trial. And then there's like I think there was like a completion clear or something. I don't know. But it's, I think 100%. No, I didn't 100% it. I didn't 100% it because, did I? I got close to 100%ing it. I did most of it. I just didn't want to go back another stream to properly 100% it, because there was this one mega jank boxing minigame. Very minigame oriented. But yeah, there's this one mega jank boxing. You had 1 health, and you had a 1cc this boxing match against a giant robot. And I was like, yeah, I'm not about that. Overall, like, it is a pleasant game. It's a enjoyable 3D platformer, but you have to be looking to play kind of retro 3D platformers to get into iNinja. But there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's just doesn't really stand out as like a fantastic game. It's just kind of a pleasant experience, no complaints. So there it is. Next, Spyro Hero's Tale. Yeah, we got both ETD and Hero's Tale on here. Where do I want to put that? We're really loading up the beats here, I think. Hero's Tale, not the best Spyro game of all time. But as far as 3D platformer collectibles, I don't think it really screws anything up. Like, it gets the job done. It's another Spyro game. It doesn't really stand out. It's not particularly creative or unique. Like it's got kind of a dark, gloomy atmosphere. There's a lot of PS2 games that just kind of look ugly because I don't know what it is. When I get to EZD, we could really complain about that. But it just kind of an ugly game. Soundtrack, I don't remember being particularly amazing. Some of the side characters were not particularly that great. Kind of clunky, kind of jank. I guess that was the other thing about iNinja. We can go back to that real quick. Tons of mini, like, instead of just like platformer, there's like secondary, vehicles or alternate controls or weapons or stuff like that, where it just kind of feels iNinja felt like it was a lot of just like stock, I don't know, PS2 design components all combined into just a game. Hero's Tale, yeah, I mean, it just kind of, it's another Spyro game, doesn't really stand out. Play it if you want to. It's not a bad game, it's just not, it just is what it is. Alright, Outer Wild, did I play 2 streams of Outer Wild? I think I did 2 streams of Outer Wild before I kind of gave up on it. Outer Wild, voice crack. I've got congestion, a little bit cold this week, sorry. Outer Wild was just not the game I was looking to play. I played this after I got back from SGDQ, and I think I was like a little bit under the weather, and I wasn't super jiving with it. But also, no one describes Outer Wild correctly. I'm comparing it to Majora's Mask, right? Like, it's repeat the day over and over, and you're supposed to figure out the environment in order to achieve a progression. The issue there was I never really figured out how to achieve progression. I was just kind of fumbling around through the environment and kind of exploring the different worlds, and then the day would repeat. I made 0 progression. I was like, it's very enigmatic, and unlike Majora's Mask, progression is less defined, right? Like, Majora's Mask, it's figure out how to get into the next temple. Okay, then clear the next temple. All right, well, you ran out of time. Loop. All right, we're going to speed run getting into the temple, and then we're going to clear the temple. Okay, well, you got the weapon, at least. Loop again. All right, speedrun getting to the temple, and then you can just do the second part of the temple because you got the weapon, or, like, you've got progression that was being achieved in that game. I'm not like a super Majora's Mask fan, but at least understand it. Don't hate the game. Outer Wilds feels like it's got strong Majora's Mask vibes, but it's less, just, I don't know, like, it's more enigma, less progression, and it's absolutely not a good stream game for me, because there's gonna be like dozens of hours of just bumbling around, achieving nothing, and it's gonna be, I don't know, like, I got bored. It was just kind of, I don't want to repeat everything to try and make more progression. Maybe it's a very enigmatic game, and then I think the other thing is that, like, when you stream Outer Wilds, you get a couple, like, the Outer Wilds people, like, hard lurk, and they self-enforce the no hits, no tips, no spoilers rules, and so then you're sitting there with all these people that know what's supposed to happen. You're like, I've made no progress in 2 hours, and they're like, isn't it great? And you're like, no, no. So like, it's just not for me. Yeah, just not for me. Next, Ori the Will of the Wisps. So I'm putting this in A tier as well. Compared to, didn't that game break or not function anyways? Outer Wilds? No, I don't. I didn't have any performance issues. I don't think. I don't remember that. All right, Ori and the Will of Wisps. So, compared to Ori 1, I think they definitely made some like systematic improvements to the game in terms of overall, like the gameplay, like progression, like all that kind of like structure to it. Definitely like they took kind of the Ori 1 and they ironed all that stuff out, especially the remastered version. Obviously, they did their best without changing the actual game. The issue why I'm not putting Ori Will of the Wisps in S tier is because the gameplay, or like the combat, I didn't like as much compared to Ori 1. It was kind of, I don't know, like there was just certain aspects of it where like the fighting wasn't as good. Because there was the attacks were different. Like in Ori 1, you do like the homing attacks and whatnot, right? I think, I don't know. I have to think back over this. You just have like different combat actions, and like the way you fight in Ori 1 isn't an option in Ori 2. So you're stuck using, you know, like the hammer and stuff, and you've got to like dodge and do other things, and you got like the enemies that kind of are able to counter certain strats, and you gotta figure out how to fight around other, you know, around that stuff. And like, I just felt like it didn't let me play the game at times the way I wanted to play it. And compared to like Ori 1, where like it's very natural within the system, like the mechanics that you have available have like a very natural flow to them, while Ori 2, it just didn't really jive with me. I don't know, like I liked the game. It's a very good game. It's just, I feel like it just wasn't. It just wasn't right. Like they screwed stuff up with the combat compared to like the first game, where it was like, you know, the mechanic, like the gameplay, the game functions better, but S tier Deadlocked, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like, am I being ambitious with S tier on Deadlocked? I liked it, like especially the new game plus. Like the thing about Deadlocked being S tier is that it's still not as good as Ratchet & Clank 2 and 3, but once you've played Ratchet & Clank 2 and 3, absolutely play Deadlocked. Like, they didn't screw up the formula. I don't know. I feel like I liked it. It grew on me. Like, I wouldn't do it expecting it to not like it as much as I did, and then I did like it. But yeah, Will of the Wisps. It just didn't feel quite right. PS2 game in B tier? How is that possible? Everyone told me PS2 Spyro sucked. This is a hero's tale. This is not Enter the Dragonfly. Do not worry. It's okay. Like, it's not a fantastic game. It just isn't. You know. Do you want to play more Spyro? Just in a kind of uglier environment and uninspired level design and a few extra friends that aren't exciting? It's okay. I don't know. Maybe we need to adjust some of this down, but it's definitely better than Vietiful Joe and Outer Wilds. Like everything here, I would say is above the things here. The only question is if I should just, you know, move these down and then like subdivide B, or should I subdivide B anyways, right? Like, there's discussion to be had there. All right. After that, we've got listed Gemcraft Chasing Shadows. I don't know where I want to put this. So tower defense, really good tower defense. I think we do go with S tier. So, Gemcraft back in the day was kind of like one of the alternate successful tower defense series compared to Balloons. I found out recently that there's 2 of them on Steam. They came out in like 2016 and 2020. So this is the 2016 one. There's also a Flash version of it. But I really like it. It's got like adjustable difficulty. So unlike Balloons Tower Defense, where you've got like fixed difficulties, and so you end up with certain levels at certain like the highest difficulties that you have to find like the one valid solution. While Gemcraft's a little bit more flexible because it's a little bit, there's RPG scaling where you get points to increase your level, get more stat points to score more, get more stat points, you improve your stats, you can then score higher in the levels. So there's kind of this iterative thing that you can do there to like max out your score in order to make more progression. But you don't really have to do a lot of revisiting, like the backtracking isn't like, like you don't have to like replay the same level over and over again because there's so many levels and the map's so large. Even though there's like tons of levels, there's a lot of like unique aspects to each of the levels, so there's still variety. There is some repetition towards the end, but it was a very enjoyable game. If you like tower defense, I guess that would be like the one caveat, like why you could move down to A tier is because like it is absolutely tower defense only, but is a fantastic tower defense. Gemcraft Chasing Shadows. So Nier Automata, it's, what's the description for this genre? Like action adventure role ARPG? Is that what it kind of falls under? But basically, samurai girl that runs around and hack and slash the enemies. You got level progression, weapons, stats. You've got like kind of component stat management. Like it's got a really good system to it. Tentative A because this game has performance issues on PC, and also my graphics card sucks. It's from 2017. So January, I'm planning on building a new computer, and then hopefully I'll be able to finish Nier Automata and go back and play Ace Combat 7 properly, because that was another game that technically my computer was supposed to be able to support, but when you got a 7-year-old graphics card, like doesn't run at 100%. When you do run at 100%, I think like my power supply might be like 2 watts short, so that when like the graphics card is running at 100% and then like my hard drive activates, then it kills there's some like system of like overdrawn or something that causes my computer to crash whenever it's like maxing out. This game had that issue on a stupid fog effect. It's always the fog effects or the cloud effects or the smoke effects that cause the everything consumption, CPU, GPU, RAM consumption to just like spike by 4x for no freaking reason. It's just fog, right? Like PS1 has been doing fog, like N64 could handle fog. Why can't my computer handle fog in your freaking game? Anyways, that's a fog issue. That's not really the game developer's fault. Game seems really good. We'll need to go back and finish it. I probably, depending on when I actually get around to it, we'll just restart and do a new playthrough. But tentative A, but like B because of hardware issues. But it's probably gonna go in A. Asterisk there. All right, 2 thrones though. So back on Prince of Persia, what I was saying there. Well, now that I've got stuff in C tier, so Prince of Persia 2 thrones. Not better than Warrior Within. So 2 thrones, you've got like this dual kind of attribute system, and so you've got like sections of the game where you play at the beginning of the game where you can play as light prince, and then you play as dark prince. The level structure I didn't like as much as or Two Thrones compared to Warrior. Yeah. I didn't like as much as Warrior Within. Also, there wasn't like this, like Warrior Within had like this additional sword thing that you could find. Like you had like sword progression, so your attacks got stronger as you went. While Two Thrones didn't have that. It just felt more primitive in order to put in this second elemental system that I wasn't that interested in. The combat was all terrible. Like, worst combat in the series. It's not like the controls changed. It's the same fighting jank. It's just the enemies became more obnoxious. Probably something to do with you having to be Dark Prince or whatever. But, like, I don't know. I did not like Two Thrones. It just felt like a step backward from where you were then. Well, like, Sands of Time was jank, but it was old, and it was like you didn't have like a lot of combat. Like the combat was just kind of there to pad out the game. While where you were then, you kind of like you had a lot more like focus on both, even though they didn't change the combat system. So it was like the combat thing, not too hot. While in the third game, it's like there's a lot of combat, and a lot of like jank. Like there was only 4 bosses. And I remember the first boss was boring, the second boss was really boring, the third boss was terrible, and then the fourth boss, the final boss, unless there was another one that I was completely forgotten. Then the final boss, jank, but yeah, there was some good aspects to it. Like the final boss was like the only like, okay, this ain't bad, which I like, fine, you ended on a high note, but like, you had a lot of like low notes to get there. I don't know, like it definitely felt like a step backwards. That's all I have to really say. So next, Dekotora 2. Not too much to talk about here. I didn't finish it. I need to go back and play it again, but I played it a bit. This is the sequel to Dekotora, which is this semi-truck racing game on the PS1, where you're racing, it's 2 semi-trucks racing, obviously you control one of them, down an expressway with traffic, which is, I don't know, kind of jank, kind of funny concept. Controls are pretty good. I couldn't figure out how to switch to manual control. Like, you can either do automatic or manual on the lane shifting, and once you get the hang of manual's hard, but once you get the hang of it, you can drive down the center of the 2 lanes and like just like boost past traffic. Which if you're stuck in automatic, it like hard swerves back and forth and it's really jank. And then the CPUs, you got to fight against the CPU and it's really hard. And so I need to go back and play that some more, beat it. The difference between this and Dekotora 1 was this has like police officers that'll come in and ram you as well, and just adds a little bit more chaos in the mix. So it wasn't game. I need to finish that. I might want to finish it at some point. It's not like I don't know. I feel like I'd be more inclined just to speedrun Dekotora than to play through Dekotora 2. But it's very similar. After that, we've got listed as Tametsi, which is a fantastic puzzle game. I feel like I have to put Tametsi in A tier or S tier on just how much I played of it. But I'm going to put it in, not in S tier, but in A tier. And hear me out. So Tametsi, if you don't know what it is, it's a Minesweeper style kind of logic puzzle game. Other games that I've played like this are kind of like Lobo Sweeper and Hex Cells, where it's got the alternate shapes where you're minesweeping, as well as just like minesweeping with additional restrictions or rules or whatnot. And so to that end, I think it succeeds really well. It's definitely not a, like, if you've only played Minesweeper, you don't start with Tametsi. You got to go play Hex Cells first, right? You got to play some of those like intermediate difficulty games between Minesweeper and before Tametsi, in order to like properly just even be able to play the game. Otherwise, it's going to be too much. I feel like for beginners. And then the other thing is, like, it is very bare bones. Like, it has everything it needs to have, and it has nothing else. Like, the soundtrack, just beat the game. There's barely even it's just got like a track or something that's completely unnoteworthy, right? So like, you're just gonna be listening to music on your own, which is fine, right? Like, instead of investing in a bad soundtrack, they're like, yeah, just mute it. Like, mute the music, just have like the game audio. That's all you need. We know it, you know it. We're gonna eliminate that now. And then what else? So they actually have in the game like this notation thing that you can do. Where what I do with a lot of games, like I did this with The Witness. I did this with I feel like I did this on some Talos Principle stuff. Was I drawing on the screen? I've done this with a lot of puzzle games where like I'll draw on stream in order to like take notes or like add like to solve like puzzles and whatnot. And it's got that half built into the game. The only thing is that it's pretty minimalistic there. So I still like am booting up, you know, additional software so that I can take notes in the game as just like one layer. And then I've got like a second layer on top of it where I can take notes. I can, you know, manage layers and everything on top, you know, additionally beyond just like the base notation in the game. But I think it's fantastic for additional minesweeping logic puzzle, but it's definitely not a beginner friendly game. It's very bare bones, so it's really good if that's what you're looking for, but it's definitely a limited audience. I'll give that much. All right, after that, Dark Cloud 2. Hold on, I skipped over one. Oh, after Talos Principle was Neopets the Darkest Faerie. All right, I was like, we should be winding down. We've only got 2 games left on the list. There's 3 down here. All right, Neopets Darkest Faerie, kind of like a Zelda-style RPG, where you can like you gain money, and then you can buy improvements to like armor and everything else. It's not F. I just placed it there temporarily. I feel like I'm putting this in B tier. It was a cute game. There was a little bit of an enigma to where you're supposed to go at times, but then I found out the manual had a 2-page map in it, and that like greatly improved my experience. Really, just on the pause menu, have a map as an option. Like the game gets better, like for real. Let's see. It's kind of outside of figuring out where to go. Like the combat was not too crazy, like block slash stuff like that. Very much like a Zelda RPG, I think is like the right descriptor. B tier just because it's not a fantastic game, it's just a pleasant game, right? I think that's the right way to describe it. Like it's not bad. I enjoyed playing it. Not like a huge recommend though. Like the A tier and above definitely would recommend. Metal Gear Solid 2 asterisk story carries it. Gameplay jank. Metal Gear Solid 1 even more jank. But like, you know, that okay. It won me over in the end. But yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say on Darkest Faerie. After that, now Dark Cloud 2. Dark Cloud 2 was a long one. Do we S tier Dark Cloud 2? I think so. So Dark Cloud 2, like Dark Cloud 1, you got like a dungeon crawling RPG where you're grinding XP on weapons in order to improve them, and you can also like find consumables that like improve your health and stuff. You've got 2 main characters this time instead of 6, but then each of those characters have 1 alternate form. So you got like basic melee combat, and then for the boy you've got a robot, and for the girl you've got transformations. I didn't do anything with the transformations. I just did the 1 mandatory transformation, then touch it afterwards, and then mostly just grinded the weapons as well as the robot. I think I maxed out the robot. Compared to the first game, the weapon, so first off, the weapons don't break. It's incredible. If your weapon hits 0 durability, you just can't use the weapon. You repair it, and you go about your life. And so that prevents you from restarting the console a bunch. Now, the biggest negative is if you game over or something, there's no, would you like to continue or would you like to try again? Restart floor, load save. It exits to the title screen for you in this game. Well, I don't think that happened in the first game. The first game is like, would you like to load? Well, this game, it's just like title screen, which is like, at least let me load. Like, that's what I'm going to do anyways. You gotta spam save. But yeah, instead of me manually restarting the console, the reconsole restarts itself for you. And so that was just kind of like a weird, you fix one problem and then you added it back in, like the same issue, but automatically, and then that was kind of weird. One thing in this game was the city building is way more complicated. I had to very much, I don't know, maybe this is the reason it should be an A tier. So it's got a really complicated, you gotta get resources to then build the houses and stuff. No bull bosses that is immune to magic. I don't think that happened. Now there were bosses where it was like, you gotta use this character, you gotta use this character thing, or at least there was floors like that. I don't know if the bosses actually work. But with a much more limited cast, it's easier to level everybody up. One demerit, I don't know, maybe we do A tier it. So the city building kind of sucks. I had to look up a lot of, I just looked that crap up. The in-game, it kind of gives you percentages on certain objectives, and you got to figure out the right resources to hit those objectives. And so when you look up the guides, it's a little bit more flexible on what you build, but you gotta really be motivated to do that. I was not feeling it. Another thing is, in this game, the beginning of the game, you're broke again, which is the same issue in Dark Cloud 1, where at the beginning of the game, you don't have Dark Cloud 1, you have to find out, talk to the mayor to get the repair bag and the food in order to even play the first dungeon. Otherwise, it's you can't even play the game. You're like, what the heck? Dark Cloud 2, you have the benefit of already having beaten Dark Cloud 1, so a lot of those jank issues, you kind of know how to manage already. But you're still really poor at the beginning of the game, and someone came along and told me that you can add additional people to your party that aren't combatants. They have different effects on terms of you gain more stats in your weapons, stuff like that. And one of them, you can recruit, have him manufacture stuff, and then sell the stuff he manufactures to every day make a certain amount of money, day cycle in game. And so that's a really effective early to mid game strategy on how to get money as opposed to grinding. So it is kind of deceptive in terms of tries to trap you into grinding more. Also the weapon leveling system. So in this version, every time your weapon levels up, you get equip slots, as opposed to in the first game, there was equip slots that were absorbed every time the weapon leveled up. And so this allows you to just grind XP on a weapon and then come back later and be like, I need to shove 21 stat points into this, and I need to shove 14 stat points into this. You can do that all later on and put it off instead of having to think about it every single level up on the weapon. Which overall is better, but it prevented me from doing what I did in the first game, which was just super load up one weapon and then turn that into an equip so that every weapon had good stats on it. when I needed it, as opposed to having to invest in every single weapon I wanted to use. So in the end, it does end up being a little bit more grindy, even though you can be less intentional about that grinding. And let's see, I don't think I really had to grind when I got to the end of the game. I think I did pretty good overall. I did also look up a guide on where all the open overworld map object collectibles are. That's what I'm debating. ARS, Adrian, on Dark Cloud 2. Because, like, the Spada... Alright, we can talk about Spada as well. So this is mini golf mini game. And it's mega jank. So certain dungeon styles just have holes everywhere. Like, imagine mini golf where like the floor is lava, quite literally in one of the stages. For half the floor, like, you hit it off the wall and it's like, oh, it's in the hole, and now I'm screwed, so give up. And you gotta, if you want to actually clear this Spada, you gotta rebeat the whole dungeon floor to try again. And it's all procedurally generated, so certain generations will have like near impossible Spada configurations, while others it's like hole in one. I don't know, it was a little jank. Certain dungeons it was good on, certain it was not. It at least provided some amusement and then like free resources along the way. I do want to go. I'd saved the 8th. Like after you beat like the main boss, there's a post game dungeon with additional whatever that I haven't gotten to. So I've saved it. I do want to go back to it. I liked Dark Cloud 2. I do think it is a little bit jank in terms of the actual like city building and stuff. It was kind of Odin Sphere got B-tiered because I thought it was way too long and samey. Like it's a little bit repetitive. Way too long of a game. Maybe it still gets A-tiered because of that, but I don't know. Escape room games, or I don't know. I probably could play an escape room game, but it's never been the subgenre of particular interest for me. I will say Odin Sphere, outside of as far as like the B tier games go, Odin Sphere, then like Darkest Faerie, I don't know, still leave Darkest Faerie. Spyro A-Hat's probably overperforming here. Same with Prince of Persia, overperforming. I'll at least give Talos Principle as like a high B. Like there's some, like it being here isn't, like this is not a sorted tier. But I do think, like if I moved Odin Sphere here, I absolutely have to move Dark Cloud 2 up, without a doubt. I don't know. I'm looking at this though, like I think Odin Sphere isn't as good as any of the games here. With Cavern of Dreams probably being the weakest. And I still think that would be better. Vietiful Joe also overperforming, maybe. I don't know, like... And we might get to the end of the tier list and just do that. We might need to reevaluate. Like, shove those down, I don't know. In which case, C tier opens up and we can... What would I C tier out of this? Spyro. Yeah, well, Vietiful Joe was the reattempt. Like, that was the round 2. Isn't a D tier game? Yeah. Like, maybe the GameCube version redeems Vietiful Joe, but like there was some actual issues performance, like on console, just audio wise. Like what's going on here? It's really, I don't know. I felt the difficulty extremely insulting too, where it's like kids difficulty and like, bro, normal is your hardest difficulty. This just isn't correct. The never-ending alarm, yeah. Alright, last game before we go back through and discuss stuff. Speaking of D-tier games, Enter the Dragonfly. Enter the Dragonfly. So I think it clears the better than Bubsy 3D threshold that prevents it from being F tier. But like, man, that game, like it's an ugly game. It controls terribly. Like, you can't charge jump, I don't think. You can either charge or jump. Like, how do you screw that up? Just let me charge and then jump while charging. Like, and then I did 100% ETD, and the last hour or two is just walking around looking for a single gem. I feel like one of the last gems I found was in the level where the gems were enemies. You have to kill the gem to get it to drop a gem, and I couldn't find the last gem, and it was, I don't know. Dude, just not good. It's like a bad, like, what T-Walk does to Crash 3, this does to Spyro 3, like, at least 2 times over. It is not good. Do not play. Yeah. D is for do not play. And I really, yeah, like Outer Wilds, I don't put in do not play. Vietiful Joe, viewer discussion is advised. But like, Two Thrones, is there a reason to play Two Thrones other than you played Warrior Within and you were like, maybe I want to try Two Thrones? Like, I feel like Two Thrones is like the edge key, like the only one that could move down here. C for caution. Yeah, Two Thrones is very on the border. And like the only thing that's keeping Warrior Within in B is Two Thrones being in C. Two Thrones is for fan service? Okay. ETD can't be exonerated for previous Spyro games. Why should Two Thrones? Well, like Two Thrones is the exact same engine as Warrior Within. And like, there's fine platforming puzzles in it. It's just all of the combat's terrible. And it's not even this different combat. They just made the enemies worse. You don't have like sword progression, so you're just stuck with what you got, and that never was good. Also, A-Hat, The Hero's Tale being in B, you could make an argument to move it down to C if Two Thrones drops. But as long as Two Thrones here, The Hero's Tale is absolutely better than that. Has an epic soundtrack. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with the soundtrack. I, was too mad at the game to pay attention. I don't know. Should I look up the soundtrack right now? Let's do this. Prince of Persia. Holy crap. Found it. Alright. Extended and official soundtracks. Unofficial soundtrack. We'll just go with Two Thrones. Windows? Is this on PC? I really like the environment. Maps were fun. I liked the Warrior Within map. It was just a straight line for Two Thrones. Warrior Within was like open and like had multiple paths. Two Thrones was a line. I don't know, it really felt like a step backwards in terms of like game design. Although forced the Light Prince versus Dark Prince. I mean, it's fine cinematic music. Prince of Persia's older brother? Oh. Same MMO, but they all look cool. Because you can wall run. It's like when Assassin's Creed came out. You climb everything. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there's better tracks in here that I didn't click on. But like, it's fine music, but not fantastic. I don't know. I definitely think it was not as good as Warrior Within. And the biggest thing limiting the Prince of Persia series for this trilogy is that the combat is absolutely atrocious. Like, it's just clunky and not good and fun. The actual like puzzle platforming was generally good, but in Two Thrones you get a step away from that because you like the Dark Prince sequences as opposed was that like the chain sequences as opposed to normal. Is there gonna be a Sands of Time remake? I don't know. I really just feel like the level design was a step back. The world design was a step back. The progression system was non-existent. I think Warrior Within just did everything better for the game. Oh, wait, they actually are remaking Sands of Time remake. Ubisoft though, so just remake the game, guys. No, we gotta ruin it before we remake it. Trust me, like we can't launch this game good. Ubisoft philosophy 2024. What if we made the same game except for worse? The ETD of Prince of Persia. We don't need. I mean, like the new Prince of Persia game, from what I saw, isn't a bad game. It's just okay, right? Like it's a fine game. Also, the biggest thing they did there wrong was that they had a speedrun community, and then they nuked the speedrun community. Like they actually they were developed, like they did a great job of like getting enthusiasm there. People were having fun. They were speedrunning, like, oh, this game, a lot of cool speed tricks and like glitches and abuses and stuff. And then instead of them being like, all right, we're gonna like develop the next game and we'll fix those patches, they're like, delete. All your speedruns are irrelevant, and everyone's like, screw this game. And then if the only people playing your game no longer are playing your game, who's gonna say good stuff about your game? Didn't think that one through. Their best game of the year, but they fired the team. Ubisoft moment. I don't know. Yeah. Unfortunate. Like, it didn't seem like a bad game. Like, be down to play it at some point. Because they couldn't monetize it. Well, you know, first step in monetizing it, having an active player base. Don't. Oh, we've got people actually speedrunning this game. Yeah, anyway, we can get like DLC, stuff like that. Anything that like skins or stuff that we can jazz up the speedrun for, right? Like without actually modifying the game, right? Stuff like that. That's how you monetize it. Like, okay, we've got active players. That's the first step to monetizing it. Okay, it's sold decently well. We're gonna keep growing it, and more people are gonna buy in. Nope. 07. Could have done that with Rayman Legends too. But it's not the first game that they've done like they've like sacked themselves on. Rayman Legends they could have developed more on. Had turned it into like a live service spin-off thing. Like you take the daily challenge stuff, right? Just add in like skins and new stuff, and maybe throw in a speed level every once in a while. Not like intense development thing. A team comes back to it every 6 months and then puts out content, right? All right. Any disagreements, final adjustments, opinions? What are we thinking? I think Dark Cloud 2. The thing that's holding me back is just like the city building and certain aspects of the like game overing 2 title screen stuff like that. Just don't feel perfect. Like it's a really good game. It's just there's some clunk. Also, highly recommend playing Dark Cloud 1 just so that you can actually play the game. Not really story-wise important, but gameplay-wise, it's kind of limiting too. Ori 1, it had some clunk. Ori 2, I feel like I just didn't like it as much. Like I feel like I wanted Ori 2, Ori Will the Wisps to be S tier, and I was like, all right, Ori 1, but S tier. And then I played Ori 2, and I was like, well, just they made improvements, but it just wasn't. They made some changes to stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's still good. You abandoned Ori 2? Yeah, like there's definitely stuff holding Ori 2 back, I feel like. Yeah, Talos, obviously you're gonna disagree with me. Talos is very much you have to like an enigmatic puzzle. And it's not, I don't think it's fair, like, for the puzzles, right? Like, Steven Sausage Roll, Superliminal, and Talos. This isn't even, Steven Sausage Roll shouldn't even be in the discussion there. So just Talos and Superliminal. And then I guess we're also mentioning The Witness. Like, why aren't these A-tier games at least? It's like, maybe I'm just overly scrutinize the puzzle games. But Talos Principle is just very... find the motivation to play it kind of thing. Witness is probably great. The issue I had with Witness was also the enigma. Some of the puzzles didn't work. Straight up, clue did not match solution. You don't have to do all of the Witness. Like there's a lot you can skip if you're actually just trying to get to the end. How's ETD the worst game you played this year? What game's worse than ETD? On the list, like, is there a game I missed? Is there a game that should be on here that I need to include that's worse than ETD? like the ones here, Vietiful Joe is just I don't know. It feels like a game that's good if you speedrun it, but you gotta speedrun it before it's pleasant. Outer Wilds is very just you gotta like enigmatic. You have far less enthusiasm? I mean, enthusiasm is different, right? Like, okay, so maybe you like the 3D platformer Collectathon here, compared to Dekotora 2. Maybe you're not into Dekotora 2. That's fine. Just don't play it. But like, that's why it's in B tier. It's like it's a pleasant game, but like, you know, S tier is like fantastic. Highly recommend. A tier is like there's stuff about them that don't make it perfect. So if you don't like the Metroidvania, I can understand caution with Ori and Ori 2. Same with like Dark Cloud. If you're not like you've got like the city building and stuff like that. There's definitely things that people would not like about Dark Cloud 2. Or you're gonna like the grindiness, the first dungeon, some confusion on how to weapon progression. Nier is mostly an A tier just because game crashed, can't progress. Otherwise, it felt like a fantastic game. ETD feels like, you know, Spyro. It's Timu Spyro for real. Why is the drag racing game not in A tier? I didn't rank any of the PS1 games that I played in December. I didn't finish either of those. And then I'm not ranking any of the Disney games. That'll just be on the Disney list. Lion and the King. The Disney stuff didn't make. Oh, yeah, we'll do the Disney stuff. Is getting relegated to Disney stuff. There's definitely worse PS1 games I played than ETD, but they'd still probably end up in D tier. Did I play anything that was an F tier game this year? Did I actually make it through the year without playing anything worse than Bubsy 3D? Ooh, Contender. Contender. And then Sailor Moon, PS1. Candidate worse than Bubsy 3D. there was a few stinkers in there. Bro, like in the freaking Sailor Moon training area, I'm like practicing combos, and then I go play the game, and instead of doing the combo, it does taunts. Like, I'm doing the same buttons I just practiced, and you're just taunting constantly? Why? Dude. I should have just invested in fist and punched. Just max fist. Just do. Right? Metal Gear Solid 2, but it's still... Yeah, so this is what I said about Metal Gear Solid. I had a lot of complaints, but the story, the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, like, just picked the entire game up on its back and carried it into A. There's a lot of clunk. There's a lot of jank. There's some confusion. It doesn't tell you what to do properly, but the story is what carries it. And half the game is just dialogue anyway, so that better be good. Praise is not a factor either? What do you mean? Odin Sphere? Talked up? I liked Odin Sphere enough to keep playing it, but it definitely went on too long. I don't know. Like, comparing Odin Sphere to everything that I've got up here, in terms of, if I was recommending the games to anyone, this is definitely, Odin Sphere would not be at the same level of these. None of them. Because it is just way too long. Like, it was enjoyable, but it got very repetitive at the end of every character. Like, it just kept going. Holy crap. Way too much game. And then, like, the 6th chapter or whatever. Alright. I think I'm happy with this. I don't know that I want to move anything around.